Zeus, I would say there's two or three things that we have to fix in the district itself. Number one is the cost of healthcare, especially health insurance premiums, are very, very high. And I think families who right now are struggling with the coronavirus shutdown, the economic impact of that, health insurance premiums need to come down. And there's some very significant things we can do to make that happen that will benefit all Americans and everyone who lives in CD6. I think the second issue that is so important is the education of our students on math and reading proficiency. Aurora is under 40% in proficiency for overall, but it's especially difficult for Black students and Hispanic or Latino students. The white students are better, but even white students in reading or math proficiency are not above 50% in many cases. We are not going to create people who have competitive opportunities in the workplace post their high school experience or on their way to college unless our educational performance comes up pretty dramatically. We're just not competitive, and we've got to fix that everywhere in the district. It's a problem. And I think lastly, it's very, very clear that not everybody has access to economic opportunity in this district like we need them to. Sometimes it's a factor of not knowing where the opportunity is. Sometimes it's a factor of not being able to get themselves to the opportunity. So we've got to find ways to help people get more economic opportunity and take some of the barriers out of the way to that. Those three things are the big principal items that we want to work on. And I think otherwise, obviously, there's a lot of businesses in CD6 that want to see us, limit the liability from COVID-19, get them back to work, reduce regulations. All of those things are on my agenda. Solution is, on January 1st, the president wrote an executive order that takes effect on January 1st that provides that we have to have transparency on healthcare costs. When you go to a hospital right now, you generally don't know what you're going to pay, and you don't know how to compare one doctor or one hospital to another. The president has mandated that 300 procedures have online pricing for both the cash price as well as the insurance price. Well, we have to take that number from 300 to about 5,000 procedures so that patients can understand what they're paying, how much their deductibles are going to be. And so that's number one. The second thing we have to do is we have to actually do what the president did yesterday on drug pricing, which is he's taking out the middleman, specifically on insulin, because diabetics are very prevalent in this country and very prevalent in this district as well. But you should apply that middleman concept the president used to all drugs. Those two things do not require us to write a law. They require us to use regulation to change the way healthcare works. And then later down the road, we'll implement some other things that make healthcare a lot less expensive. We've moved toward red flag legislation without having the debate we really need to have. I know that, in earlier conversations, I've said to people, I don't think you can change the United States Constitution without a vote of the people. So it's not a question of whether I think that we can change the Constitution. I think you have to have the vote of the people to change the Constitution. So if you're going to alter the Second Amendment, you need to put it on the ballot for the American people and let them decide. Now, do red flag bills help or not help? I don't know yet. I think they're being tried in places, but what I really think we ought to do is have a debate about gun violence that's happening across this country, get all the facts, get all the figures, and find Zeus. You can't have a Chicago where a week ago tonight there were 15 people shot. The day before there were 20 people shot. There were over 50 people shot over the weekend in what's a gun-free zone, but the gangs have taken over. We need to look at every option we can to stop violence. Gun violence and other violence in America, no matter what that is, we need to have a debate. What the president is trying to point out to all of us is that we need immigration reform. DOC, from your constitutional point of view, is not a constitutionally sound idea. Because we're deferring action around a set of laws that we're not following and we're not doing the right thing. So we need immigration reform. And in that immigration reform, I believe we must include a discussion about what are called the dreamers, right? The young children who came here when they were, 1 or 2 years old, that have grown up here, that have gone to high school here, that have educated themselves and are working here. They need to have a way to become citizens if they choose. I think there are some people who would prefer to have a working program where they work in America and they go somewhere else to live when in the off season. I think there's plenty of people like that. The bottom line, though, is we have to have reform. I do not believe that someone brought here as a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old who's grown up here, when you say send them home, that's not an effective. Go back and review the 2018 election itself and look at what the primary issues were. And I would then ask him to say, Congressman Crow, if the issues were economic opportunity, education, and healthcare, because I believe they were, what have you done to address them for the voters and the people who live in District 6? What bills have you authored? What steps have you taken? Tried to play, of course, when we were all off and we couldn't go out and visit people. You could go outside, the weather was getting better. I tried to play tennis with a mask on. It didn't work very well. So now I do play with some friends of mine, and we social distance in an appropriate way while playing tennis on a court. When you're running for office, you got to stay fit somehow. You need to have energy, and you know. The one thing that comes up for me in my mind, and it's been a long time since I've been there, was the handmade corn tortillas or the homemade corn tortillas. I mean, obviously in Guatemala City or in Antigua, you get tremendous access to vegetables and to guacamole and avocados, but the handmade tortillas were incredible. And then I hate to admit this because hopefully my doctor's not listening. I really love the fried plantains. I'm one that likes chocolate on my fried plantains, and people would say, well, you can't have chocolate for breakfast. Well, if you have a fried plantain, I think you need dark chocolate on it. So those were things that I remember well, but the food there was very good.